Well, it would be 6 o'clock according to my clock here, which means we should actually be live right now. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you might be calling in from today. I am Photo Joseph, and I am your host, your entertainment. I am here today to talk to you about photography. I'm going to talk about travel photography, talk about live streaming. So first, let me give you a little bit of background of me and also a little precursor. Um, Things went a little crazy today, and this show almost didn't happen. This is not my usual setup. For anyone who is used to seeing me live knows that this is not normal. And I will explain why I had to rush home and reset up my entire live streaming configuration here. But I'll wait till we get to the live streaming part of the show to talk about that, because I think that'll be kind of cool to hear the little details of that. Let's get a quick little shout out in the chat room. I just want to make sure that y'all can see and hear me just fine. I see people saying hello, but I don't know that they can actually see or hear me. So Tyrone, hello to you. Gafurgigish, hello to you. Let's see, I can do this. We can pull up the chat. Dan says, hey, hey. Let's just make sure that somebody actually sees and hears me before I truly continue on, and then we will get this road on the show, as they say. So waiting for that little confirmation to pop up. Always nice to get a little confirmation. I guess we're on the delayed streaming bit here. Either that or no one can actually hear me. All we're waiting is someone to tell me that they can hear me. I don't know. I mean, I guess at some point I just assume that y'all can hear me and we just go for it. Well, oh, there we go. We see and hear you. Excellent. There we go. There's the confirmation I was looking for. Fantastic. All right, let's hide that off and let's get this thing started. So once again, hello everybody. I am Photo Joseph. I am a photographer, content creator, filmmaker, YouTuber. You know, pick whatever word you like these days. It's kind of all over the place what we call ourselves. I do the YouTubes. That's kind of a big thing of what I do. Growing that channel, subscribe please. 50,000 subs almost within reach, which is kind of nice. And on the YouTube channel, I talk primarily about photography, video. It's kind of a photo, video, gear, and technique is the theme of the show there. And one of the other big things is that I am actually sponsored by Panasonic. I am a Lumix ambassador. And so today when I get to talking about camera gear, I will be talking about Lumix cameras because that is, for obvious reasons, my preferred gear. This is what I choose to use, and therefore Panasonic has chosen to sponsor me, which is kind of a nice thing. And so we'll talk about my passion for that, but I promise this isn't going to be a hard sell on the Lumix cameras. This is about how to get awesome photos while traveling, and then a bit about how to use your gear for live streaming, whatever that gear might be. So again, remembering that today's show is a twofer, we're going to kind of split it somewhere-ish down the middle, and we're going to start by talking about travel photography. Now, I hear you all like, dude, don't talk about travel. I can't go anywhere. That's not fair. It's not fun. How about a little travel inspiration, get the little travel feels, juices going? That's what we're gonna kind of try and go for today. Hopefully inspire you to get those dialing booking numbers ready so you can make that plane booking as soon as it is a-okay to travel again. Or for those of you that are feeling a little bit dangerous, living a little on the edge, maybe you go somewhere when the airfare's cheap. I don't know, it's up to you. But we're going to talk about travel photography. So I'm gonna do this in the description that I wrote. I said that I was going to show you some photos and talk about my kind of philosophy towards travel photography, and then we'll talk a little about gear and planning for travel photography. And the looking at the photos and the philosophy definitely comes together. This is something that they just intertwine together perfectly. So we're going to see that going side by side here, and we're going to start. I'm just going to switch over and start looking at some pictures. And this is one of the very first photos that I took on a trip to Republic of Georgia. That's Tbilisi, Republic of Georgia, not Georgia State, but like Republic of former Russia, you know the place. And this was an incredible adventure story. I was there as part of a workshop. The workshop was run by a gentleman named John Stanmeyer. He is one of the founding members of the Seven photography group. If you don't know them, V111, Roman numeral, or V11, sorry, Roman numeral 7, V11 photo. Look it up. Absolutely incredible work. John's one of the founding members, and he was running this workshop, and he treated it kind of like a National Geographic assignment, if you will. Every student there had an assignment, and it was a kind of a self-assigned. We planned it in advance, but this to me was, for me, the ultimate in travel photography, because I was there to do what I love to do, shoot. And when it comes to photography, travel photography, even though it's kind of hard to make money doing it, is basically my favorite type of photography to do. And because I was able to craft my own assignment, I was able to come up with a way to do this that really just tugged at my heart and was going to be really special to me. And so my core assignment, self-assignment, was food, the food of Georgia. And for anybody who knows me personally, you know I kind of like the food. And so when it comes to travel, there's two things that are of utmost importance to me: the people and the food. And if I can combine those together into a story, into the pictures that I take, this is what's going to make me the happiest. That's just what I personally love. For some people, of course, it might be the art or the architecture or the religion of a country, whatever it is. That's totally up to you. But you find what it is and you really focus on that. And you don't just go as like, oh, tourist, I'm going to go take a whole bunch of random photos. I'm going to go focus on this story that I want to tell about that country or city or wherever you might be. And that is what will take your travel photography to that whole next level. Give yourself an assignment. Pretend you're on assignment for National Geographic. I mean, why not, right? Just pretend you are and go out with an objective in mind. And so for my story for Georgia was about the food, which you can't talk about the food without talking about the people, which again is just what makes me happy. And so this very first photo, I'm walking down the road with my fixer, and which is something wonderful to have in a place like that, to have that fixer. Let me see if actually this works. I'm going to try. Oop, no, that does not work. Give me just 1 second here. I'm going to change my streaming setup here so that I can do a little picture-in-picture. Kind of things I would have set up, except that I kind of had to scramble to get things running here today. Let's see here. That should, oh, why isn't that? No, I thought that would have been right. No, I guess not. Oh, well, I guess I'm not going to do the picture-in-picture like that. No, I've screwed up my other picture-in-picture. Oh, well. Anyway, back to it. So, this first photo here, let's get the right pictures up. This first photo was something I captured walking down the street. I'm with my fixer, and I smell baking bread. And oh, that smell of baking bread. It's like walk by a door, where's that? And there's this little tiny doorway, a deep stairway down, and I look at my fixer. I'm like, do you think we could go down there? Sure, why not? So we go down, walk down this dark, narrow stairway, and it opens up into this scene right here. This is literally what I step into. And I grab the camera, pick it up, and get that shot, and it is just the perfect moment. And you're wondering, what in the world is going on there? Well, let me explain. So this picture, this fellow is baking bread. You can see does my mouse come up here? It does, oh good. You can see this kind of weird shape right there. That is actually the bread. The bread shape that the way they do their bread there, it's this kind of oval and then with like handles shape on it, and it's baked on the inside of these ovens. And so he takes this bread and he slaps it on the inside of this oven, and this one was electric, or traditionally they'd be coal-fired, but this is imagine a tandoori oven. For those of you know what a tandoori oven is, it's like that, but man-sized. And so literally what he does is he takes this thing of bread, rocks his body over the edge of that stove, head first in, slaps the bread on the side, I suppose hopes that gravity continues to work, and his legs pull him back out. He cantilevers back out. It's like this insane motion, and he's doing this all day long, basically going head first into an oven. And this is the first photo that I get, first real photo that I get on this trip, and I'm like, oh, I can basically go home now. I got my shot. This is perfect. And that's the kind of photo that I'm always looking for, just to tell that story, tell the story of the food and the people. So I got a bunch of photos here. I won't spend this much time on each photo, but I wanted to kind of set the stage for what this was. So let's go ahead and flip through a few more. Again, it's about the food for me. So I went into restaurants, photographing the ingredients, right? Like there's beauty in everything, right? And this is, I don't remember what spice, but some spice. Clearly, I mean, you're probably understanding what the photo is right now. It's a top-down photo. There's a glass or some kind of container that's full of the spice sitting inside of this bag of the spice, and it just has this beautiful, beautiful look to it. Things like that, little elements like that is what I'm constantly looking for. Ingredients, I actually don't even know what this is, but some herbal ingredient. The potatoes, right? It's a simple image. It's nothing fancy. It's just a pile of dirty potatoes on the ground, but there's that blue dustbin that they use, I guess, to scoop the potatoes, and the lines are just right, and I can get down near the ground to get it, and it's just, to me, this perfectly beautiful photo that I think is just wonderful. And this is the story that I'm trying to tell. The meat sold at an open-air market while the vendor is asleep. Things are different in different parts of the world. What are you going to do? Okay, so then another part of the Georgian story isn't just the food, but it's also the drink. Yes. And they, especially out in the country, they drink a homemade beverage that's called cha-cha. And cha-cha is essentially, it's like good old American hooch. I mean, this is serious. This will put hair on everybody's chest. This is, it'll put hairs on your hairs. This is some seriously strong stuff. And it is distilled from grapes and pear and sticks and leaves and kind of a lot of stuff. But it is distilled down to its pure alcohol form. And then I guess traditionally it might be diluted, it might be soaked into something else to flavor it. But this cha-cha is a very traditional drink. And as the honored guest that I was going into people's homes, I kind of had to drink a lot of cha-cha. I was like drunk by 10 a.m. most of these days. But it was just a fantastic experience. So I went to this one home out in the country where they're going to make cha-cha and they're going to show me the process of making it. So here you have kind of the matriarch of the house and looking for those elements, those moments. You know, it's the beautiful older woman with the wrinkly skin, the time-worn skin, and the lace curtain behind her, and finding the framing. And we look at the edge here. These are the kind of things that I'm looking for, and make me very, very happy to find these frames in here and to line up the shot perfectly and get that in. And I just love it. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. This, incidentally, is the inside of the copper still where they make the cha-cha. And then here, so he's pouring in the liquid that has been basically fermenting for however many months. That liquid, that brown liquid going in there, is grape peels and grape bits, and literally it sticks and twigs and is kind of just the rough stuff that was left over from making wine, shoved into a bucket full of water and let to sit for it to start fermenting for, I don't know, a few months or something. And now it's going into the still. And what I love about this photo is you see not just him pouring it, but the two guys behind him in like this incredible anticipation, just waiting for what's coming next. And I love it. I love it. This is kind of the end of the process, the dripping out of the alcohol, going through this final filter on here. And I'm not going to show you photos of the entire process, but the fire underneath this is done outdoors. You can see the size now of that big copper still. And there, for anyone who's ever made alcohol and knows what a hydrometer is, that tells you how strong the drink was. And that is not how they normally serve it. But as tradition, that first batch, that first pass, everybody has to have a little bit of it. I mean, that's almost pure alcohol, but everybody has to have a little sip of it because that's just the way that it's done. And so it's great. But that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for. So for me, traveling, it's about the food, it's about the people, and as much as I can combine those together, the better. This is that same family home, them sharing a meal with me. And traditionally, the way that they would eat there as a family is everything goes into the middle of the table and everybody's just grabbing their bits and pieces, whatever they want. Very traditional way of eating. Okay, now we're moving over to another side of the world. This is going to be in Oaxaca, Mexico. So the next series of photos from Oaxaca are this is a workshop that I was leading. So this time I'm the instructor on the workshop and do that occasionally. We'll actually talk a little bit more about that. I've got one in India that's supposed to be happening this year, but we'll see what happens. But this is one that I led a couple years ago in Oaxaca, Mexico. And so once again, the theme of food and people being my thing, we see here just a street vendor doing the corn, and anybody's had this kind of corn, you know, it's just lovely. And so capturing moments like that is always an important thing for me. This is just some local small bar, and I love this photo for several reasons. Minus the tourist in the background, I kind of wish he wasn't there, but what are you going to do? But this guy just walks in and starts playing. I guess maybe some people gave him money, but he just kind of walks in and starts playing. You've got a woman outside just kind of really into it and singing along. And then the nice young legs hanging out there on the side, just kind of cropping it all in and telling that story of hanging out in the bar. The bartender himself, I love that look. He's got a beautiful look on his face. Really nice lighting too. I mean, it's so nice when you find those perfect lighting moments. Pretty good, pretty cool. That would be drinking mezcal. Mezcal being okay, look, I know you're sensing a theme in here, but mezcal being the traditional drink in Oaxaca. If you've never had mezcal, it's nothing like tequila, but it's made from the same ingredients. Go for it, get some. Absolutely delicious. But this is one of those just little moments of hanging out and seeing that beautiful light and just going for it. I love that. As I said, it was a workshop, and food being a big focus of it. This photo is not totally sharp, right? I mean, it's okay. There's sharp here, I guess, but the hands are moving. There's a little bit of motion blur. It's clearly not what I would consider a perfect photo, or what you traditionally call a perfect photo. And I put this photo in here because I think it's important to accept that not every photo necessarily is perfectly exposed and perfectly focused and absolutely sharp. Sometimes photos are messy. And you look historically at some of the best photographers, the photographers we look back at over the years, and we revere some of the greatest photographers of photography. a lot of those photos aren't technically great, but they tell the story. And I'm not saying this is like some epic photo, but it tells the story of her making the tortilla. I think it was like a quesadilla she's doing, but over these open coals. And this is, to me, it's just such an important part of the story of how they do their food there. Again, the people. I'm always exploring the people, looking at the faces. It's always wonderful when you can get a face that's just so perfect, and the face itself has so much story, so much of a story to tell. Absolutely adore it. That's obviously a little girl there. I think this is actually all in the same place, I believe. Same home, probably the grandma in the home, and little girl eating the corn fresh off of the, well, actually it looks like a raw corn. Just digging into it. I just love it. I love it. Street vendor. This is, I bought a hat from this woman. Asked if she would pose for a photo for me. She wasn't totally thrilled about it, but I just bought a hat from her. I told her I'd buy her a hat if she let me take a picture, something like that, and away we go. Love that. I mean, come on, you've seen a happier face like ever? Look at that. She's just happy as can be. And she's cooking. So this was a rural kitchen, like really absolute middle of nowhere. And she's making breakfast. It's like a town of, 12 people or something, and she's making breakfast. And in we go. And she's cooking over the open fire. Obviously, you can see the flame in there. She's stirring something, got a couple pots going, the smoke on the right. This kind of thing, looking for those little bits of light, that perfect light coming through, is such a wonderful thing to find. I think the light's just coming through like a window or a hole in the wall. I don't remember exactly, but looking for those moments is just such a wonderful thing to find. Okay, so I said that in Oaxaca, the traditional drink is mezcal, and so part of the tour there, part of the workshop, we went to see a mezcal distillery, so we could see how mezcal is made, and the people who are making it, the traditional cowboys, basically making the mezcal in here. It's just so cool, so much fun, such incredible faces. I mean, come on, what is not to love? That guy is just awesome looking. Another one of the workers there, just beautiful faces, beautiful tones. These are the kind of things that I'm looking for, and asking someone to pose for a picture. At least I find in most foreign countries. I'm in the US. I know not everybody watching is going to be based in the US, of course. This is worldwide. But anybody who is, maybe it's more about home country. I don't feel comfortable necessarily asking people in my home country to pose. Like, even if I go to a city like New York, a city that is known for being great at street photography, I don't really feel that kind of connection where I feel like I could stop someone and ask them. And maybe I can do that more in a foreign country because I am the foreigner and people are like, whatever, foreigner. And it's just kind of more accepted, but I'm, of course, always courteous, always respectful. Ask people if you can take their photo, and if you can't speak the language, then it's a very easy, ask. My camera's put away, but like, if you're holding your camera and you kind of would just, you hold it up and kind of, you get that, is it okay? And they get it, and they'll say, yes or no. And if they say no, then you move on. But that's what these photos are, is for the most part, I'm asking, is it okay? Or maybe you ask, if you speak the language, you can actually ask. Or like when I was in Georgia, having the fixer certainly helps. Which, incidentally, just to back up to that for a moment, I said fixer, I didn't talk about it. If you're not familiar with the term, a fixer is a local in a country that will help you basically with everything that you need, help you get around. Maybe they're driving you, they're just making arrangements. They're there to help you because you're not from there. They can open doors. They can, I don't mean that physically, but like literally, figuratively. That's the word I was looking for. Figuratively open doors for you, get you into places that you wouldn't normally get. Make introductions, ask questions when you don't speak the language and the other person doesn't speak your language, and so on. So having a fixer can be great. And if you're in many foreign countries that you would go to, it's not hard to find somebody. Just go on Craigslist and post an ad of what you're looking for an assistant, photography assistant, or some tour guide or something, and find some young college student who's looking to make a few bucks and knows the area well and can take you around. It can really change everything about a trip. And so having the fixer in a place like Georgia, where hardly anybody speaks English, was extremely beneficial. I speak Spanish reasonably well, so in Mexico it's easy enough for me to get by. But again, if you're somewhere where you don't speak the language, just universal language of, is that okay? You'll get by. You'll do just fine. I love this photo. That same guy, so that's him here, loading a piña of the what do you call that? The agave. There we go. The agave onto the fire. The way that mezcal is made, it's really quite wonderful. It's basically they build this huge pit in the ground, dig a pit in the ground, burn a fire, get it down to the coals, the embers, dump these quarters of piña, these huge, and they're huge. You can see how big this thing is, right? That's a quarter of one there. Cut it into quarters, throw these onto the coals. Dirt first, coals, dirt, then the piñas, and then they cover it with a bunch of burlap sacks, and it sits there for like 2 or 3 days smoking, and then they take that out and they run it through the pressing process. Anyway, it's a wonderful process. Very delicious. Anyway, so that's kind of what that is. And you see this incredible smoke in there. And it's just one of those photos. Love that moment. Love the lighting. Love the smoke in there. All right, on to another corner of the world. So we're just all over the place here. This is India. So I mentioned the workshop. I did a workshop in India January. Yeah, is that right? No, it wasn't January, February, whatever. I did it like a year and a half ago. And I'm doing it again this year, November 2020, at least that's the plan. We'll see what happens. It's, obviously the world situation being what it is, it may not happen. But if you're interested in that, photojoseph.com/India. All the info is there, including the dates and everything, of course. Everything you need to know is on there. If you're interested in going to India with me, and I'll mention it again at the end of these photos because you might, after seeing these, you might be like, oh yeah, I want to go do that. It could be super fun to do. But these series of photos are from 2 different trips, a scouting trip and the actual workshop that I took people on last year, whenever it was. But this is basically like a small religious ceremony into one of the rivers there. Again, the people, getting those faces, seeing those beautiful, incredible faces, and asking permission to photograph and getting them. Some kind of a market. He's selling his handful of a dozen fish that he's got for sale. That's the market. That's the way it is. Love stuff like this. Looking at this lighting, this guy's selling. I have no idea what he's selling, but he's a little bored reading the paper, and you just catch that perfect moment. Just catch that light, catch that moment. Adore it. This is, I think this is Varanasi, if I remember right. These guys are religious, spiritual leaders, if you will, priests of a sort, and kind of sitting around doing blessings. And they're also very much there for the tourism. People, give them a little money to take their picture. And this fellow here is just, as you can see, really enjoying life. Really a happy man sitting there. And he'll let you get the picture. That's super cool. It's just amazing to get photos like that. This guy actually, I think I have another photo of him in here. This guy came out with us on a boat, which allowed us to get some photos of him out on the water too. I think I have more photos of that in here. I might not. Again, that's that same area, Varanasi. I'm pretty sure I've got the place right. You go to so many of these places and you're like, I think I got the right city. I think that's right. It's kind of Game of Thrones looking. It's so funny. I remember when I first pulled up this photo, it took me a while, but then I saw this here and I'm like, it's a dragon. No, it's just like some piece of cloth, but doesn't it look like it's like a dragon? Look, little dragon. It's a total Game of Thrones. Anyway, moving on. People bathing in the river. So going out on the water. Here, this is a neat thing to watch out for. Any opportunity to get into a different position to take photos somewhere from an angle that you wouldn't normally get. The idea of change your perspective, change your angle, change your position, move, zoom with your feet, all of that, so important. But if you can actually get somewhere totally physically different, like this one here, going out on the water, going out on a boat to the water, to be able to shoot that direction like that, it's just so cool. Oh, I'm just looking at the comments. Someone says sadhus. Thank you very much. That's right. Those are sadhus, the spiritual leaders there. Excellent. Okay, so let me go back to the images here. Oops, get back into full screen. And anyway, so getting that kind of angle is just such a wonderful thing to do. Like this, I love this photo. I love this. It's so simple and peaceful, and the lines. I am a huge fan of clean lines. Whenever I can, I will endeavor to have perfectly vertical or horizontal lines, try and keep things symmetrical. It really appeals to me. And so seeing this as we're going down the water, kind of floating along, and I see that, and I'm going, oh my God, this is perfect. If no one steps into frame as we're drifting by, this will be the perfect shot. Seeing it, predicting that, getting ready for it, getting that shot, love it. And that's one of those, you shoot a picture like that and you're like, yeah, I'm done for the day. That was awesome. Another just gorgeous face. Love it, love it, love it. Hey, every once in a while I get a selfie out at the Taj Mahal, getting a little look at me picture. It's always fun. But then early in the morning, getting into the Taj, which is certainly a challenge. You can see how many people are there. Where I was standing to get this photo, it's insane. I like this photo. It's fine, but whatever. There's like 8 billion photos that look just like this, shot every year, whatever. I don't know why I don't have it in here, but I have an iPhone picture. I didn't add it in here for some reason. Kind of wider lens up over the shoulder, just showing how many people were standing right there trying to get that exact same photo. And because I'm all about the symmetry, and I like that symmetry, you see here that I am perfectly down the center of this. And boy, let me tell you, it took me a while to get there. Just pushing my way up to the front and inching over a little inch by inch by inch. And I'm sure that annoyed the heck out of a lot of people, but darn it, I want that photo, and I got it. I got it, which always makes me happy. All right, let's go back to that. Let's see what else is next. Oh yeah, that's just smoking the cigarettes. It's a specific way that they smoke these tiny little cigarettes. They inhale the smoke into their hand. That's just kind of their method, kind of their way. But looking for those little tiny elements, that ash that's falling, getting that super close up, super shallow depth of field photo. Love it, love it, love it. Incidentally, I know probably part of the reason I'm doing this out of Lightroom so that I could talk about what these were shot with for those who wanted to know. But this series, let's see here, let me pull up the metadata on this photo. This particular photo, so this is a Lumix G9 with the Nocticron lens, the 42.5mm f1.2 lens. Absolutely one of my all-time favorite lenses. And probably, I mean, these were all shot at the same time, so those probably were all with the same lens. If I go back to like this one here, G9, also the Nocticron. This is going to be a wider one. What is this? Oh, it's also the Nocticron. Well, look at that. I guess I really like that lens. It's a beautiful lens. Oh, this is the 12mm f1.4. I'm going to show this combo in a little bit, the G9 with the 12mm f1.4. Beautiful, beautiful combination. But everything you've seen so far, every photo you've seen so far from Georgia, from Mexico, and now from India are all shot on Lumix Micro Four Thirds cameras. And I know you hear a lot of like, oh, it's a small sensor. No. You get the right lens combination, you have something really, really small and neat. And I'll talk more about gear in a moment. But that small package, that lightweight package with a really good fast lens is going to give you that shallow depth of field, and that's what we're seeing here. So the Nocticron, the 15mm f1.7, the 12 f1.4, all beautiful lenses, and we'll take a look at those in a little bit. But let's go back to the pictures for now. All right, back to full screen. Hey, you got to get the selfie, the fun selfie. People are just wonderful, Looking for the colors, in there. We're going to kind of rush through some more of these photos. Where are we on time? Oh yeah, we are definitely coming to the end of the travel. Oh no, we're not. I still got 15, 20 minutes of travel time. Excellent. This, it's so funny. Like this photo, I see this and I go, I wonder, somebody put that there just for a photo? Because it's like so perfectly positioned and it's all rusty and cruddy and definitely is not a rideable bike, but it's just sitting there and you think, well, all right, cool. I got the photo. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Sunrise, people travel and they're like, I'm on vacation. I want to sleep in. No, don't sleep in. Sleep when you're home. Get up early, go out for the sunrise. Look at this. Look at this sunrise. Just incredible. This is like a lake in the middle of the desert. It's insane. This is the kind of thing that you see in India. India is so beautiful. So beautiful. I love this. So dark. Very, very high contrast. And this is not, see, if I look at the original photo, there's the original photo, right? Barely any different. I just kind of like really pumped up the contrast a little bit just to really make those shadows go black. But seeing that light just scraping along those beautiful, beautiful, super saturated Saudis is just an incredible thing to see. Love it. Love that. Okay, this is definitely a planned, posed situation. So just a little backstory to this, which is kind of fun. So this was, I really should pull up maps. Wait, maybe I have it written down in here. Let's see if I go back to this. If I open this, I should see. Oh shoot! Oh, here it'll be here. Jaisalmer, there we go. This is my Jaisalmer album. So this is in Jaisalmer, or outside of Jaisalmer. Jaisalmer is, if you look in India, if you look at a map, it's quite close to Pakistan. And this desert that we're in here is that desert that's, well, I mean, it's that whole area, but basically I'm somewhere between Jaisalmer and the Pakistan border. And it's one of those where there's military base in Jaisalmer, there's jets flying overhead all the time, and you're kind of thinking, oh, right on the border of Pakistan. Interesting. And, but it was this whole thing was an arranged tour to go out there with these camels. And so I got this incredible camel ride, super fun. Ouch, by the way, but super fun. And we're out there with these two camels and the two camel herders, two camel guides, we call them. And the whole thing is a photo shoot. Like we're out here to shoot. We're out here to shoot the camels at sunset to get these photos. I mean, how awesome is that, right? And so I can pose them, I can tell them to go wherever I want, and this was the shot, this is kind of my favorite here, up on the sand dune, the two camels standing, one of the gentlemen sitting, one standing, and that sun just going in between them. I adore it. I absolutely love it, and very much planned, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with planning these things. It's great to capture those moments, that fleeting moments, the totally natural, unexpected moments, like that first opening shot, the bread baker. Couldn't have planned that, just walked in and off he goes. But then sometimes you're like, you know what? There's a photo that I want, and I'm willing to pay for it. I'm gonna pay to make this happen, or make the arrangements, whatever it is, to make this happen and get those photos. I love stuff like that. Love it. Okay. A few more from India. I think we're almost to the end of my collection here. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Worker under some blue tarp, right? It's just like this big blue tarp, but the light that it's casting is just, it's so cool looking. I dig it. And this is one of those where technically you got to be careful, right? Because here, technically, the camera probably, I don't remember now, but the camera probably wanted to override the white balance. It's going, danger, this totally is messed up white balance, shift it. But no, I wanted the cool blue, which is, if you've never shot with a mirrorless camera, one of the best things about shooting mirrorless is you see exactly what the photo is going to look like before you push the button. Looking through the viewfinder or at the back of the LCD, you see your exposure, your white balance. If you've dialed in like a black and white mode on your camera, you see that as well, which incidentally, I love shooting in black and white mode. I think it's a great way to shoot. Take the color out of the picture, just focus on the composition and light. Anyway, it's one of those things. But so a photo like this, I think that I probably, and I might be slightly embellishing the story here, but imagine, if you will, I walk in or I walk by and I see this, and I see the blue because my eyes, it's adapted for sunlight, and I see the blue, like, ooh, that's blue. And you pick up the camera, and the camera goes, oh no, back towards orange, and you go, no, 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 and you dial it back towards blue to get that look that you want, and that's what that is. It's just that perfect cold temperature under the blue tarp. This was a what do you call it? A waist level shot. It just kind of walked by and didn't want to disturb her and got that. Just like, dang, I nailed that one. And yeah, that's totally uncropped. I kind of I'm actually surprised it turned out, but yeah, totally uncropped, walking by and off we go. Just love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, wrestling. This is a big thing in Indian culture. There's some states where they do these like wrestling. There is a whole cultural. They live their life this way, and it's wrestling in the dirt. And I think, is his head still on the right way? But this is how they live their life, and very much about exercising, wrestling. It's a spiritual experience for them. And it's just such a wonderful thing to see and experience. And this is, again, one of those where you make the arrangements, you can go there and you can photograph it. And we had a group with us, so we were able to make extra arrangements, stay there extra time. And they were going through their routine and exercising and warming up for us so we could shoot. All these things can be done. And that's another one of those like little, I talked about, you see a photo that you want, make it happen. Again, something like this, you see this and you're going, man, I wish I could get more photos than just the same tourist photos that everybody else is going to take. Talk to somebody, find out what it takes to make those special arrangements, to come back at another time when it's just you and you can have that kind of private audience, if you will, if that's something that you're into. Just one of those things to think about, one of those things to consider. Okay, so this next series is a sequence in a market, all photographed the same way. And so the idea here, and this is, I think, a lesson that I was doing at the workshop, was about telling a story with the pictures, making a sequence of photos to tell the story, and photographing them all in the same format. So all vertical, but not just vertical, kind of the same framing with in this case, the food that they're selling dominating the foreground, the character, the seller, the vendor, centered in the center, and just, anyway, trying to get the same framing. And so if we look through these photos, we've got this guy selling the fish, and then him selling the onions, and this guy doing the garlic, which he was very popular. I couldn't quite get anybody out of the way, but I really like this, even though it doesn't quite match the others as far as, there's no arm coming into these, but it's the same idea where the three of these side by side really help tell the story of that market. And I love doing that. I love creating a series of photos of a particular event, occasion, experience, whatever it might be, but creating those series, I really adore that. I like doing that. Motion, motion blur is always a fun thing to shoot. What a face. I love it. Her one good tooth. Yes, that is her tooth. Her one good tooth. Just adore this photo. Love it. Love it. Again, that centered, you can tell on a lot of my photos, I like that positioning, that center framing, that even on either side. It's great. Another sadhu, this is at the Kumbh Mela. So the Kumbh Mela is this once every 7 years, I think I got that right, massive event. It is the largest gathering of human beings on planet Earth. Now I forget how many millions of people were in when we were there, but it was many. And it's insane, and it's incredible. And if you ever have the opportunity, you should definitely go, because it's just one of those crazy things. We walked something like 18 miles one day, because you can't drive through it. You you're sleeping, you're camping way far away. You can drive a little bit, and then you're on foot for hours, and then you're literally surrounded by millions of people. And that's what this experience was, and just got some wonderful, wonderful photos in there. This is a very, very early morning in the Ganges. Many people are more than happy to pose for the photos. Super high ISO, definitely a little bit of noise reduction added onto this. Let's look at the metadata on this one. That'll be interesting. Let's see, GH5, 12 to 60 f2.8 to f4, so not even a fast lens. This is the kit lens, the 12 to 60 f2.8, and shot at ISO 8000. Okay, so not crazy high ISO, but definitely pretty high ISO. Yeah, dig that. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Cool, cool, cool. All right, let's just move on. A couple more in here. I think we're gonna. Oh yeah, there's that. They are kind of out of order, but there's that same guy out on the water, smoking his thing. All right, all right. We're just gonna fly through these last few because I do want to talk gear and other stuff before we're done here. This is just a random, just completely random. A woman just sitting there, this beautiful green background. You see those colors, you see the framing, and you just, yeah, I love it. That's the kind of thing that I'm looking for. This framing is so beautiful, and those colors are so rich. Adore it. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, Taipei. Okay, right. I forgot that I have a whole other collection of photos in here. All right, so we're going to fly through these. There's actually not that many from Taipei, but everything you've seen so far, we shot on Micro Four Thirds. Again, GX85, G9, GH5. I think that encompasses everything that was in there. This next round is shot with the Lumix S1, and this is late last year. This is a very quick kind of a I don't even call it self-assignment. Let's be honest. It was like a mini vacation. I had great airfare, took a couple days, met up with a buddy out there in Taipei, and we bummed around for a few days eating and taking pictures and having a good time. But again, I'm going to follow that theme of shooting the people and food. And I brought the S1 with me, but I'll do the first camera show and then I'll grab the other ones in a moment. For those of you who are not intimately familiar with the Panasonic full frame lineup, this is the Lumix S1, so that's your big full frame Lumix camera. There are not a whole lot of lenses for this lineup yet because it's still quite a new camera system. Actually, the lens system, the Leica L-mount's been around for a long time, but most people don't want to spend Leica money on Leica lenses. They're amazing if you can afford them. So there's a handful of lenses, and the lenses that have come out to be, for now, the ones that are out right now, are mostly larger lenses, kind of getting those big, heavy ones out of the way. And so they're not the most ideal travel photography lenses because they are so big. And so one of the things that I have found that I love doing is adapting old lenses. So this is a Pentax Takumar, Super Takumar lens, 50mm f1.4. Obviously all manual. In fact, the aperture broke on this one, and I priced it to get it fixed. It doesn't close anymore. I priced it to get it fixed, and it costs more to get it fixed than the whole lens is worth. So I'm gonna have to get another one. But I usually shoot wide open with it anyway, which is kind of the point of this. I love the look. It's just a particular analog look, and it's a much smaller lens. It's an M42 lens, so it's actually a screw mount lens. I've put the gearing on here so that I can do, so I can use it for video and remote focus it remotely. But this is just a little screw mount M42 to L mount adapter. And I have several lenses like this that I just love, and it makes for a much smaller kit. And so it's all manual, which is perfectly fine by me. I usually shoot manual anyway, and that's what this round of photos is from. So it's the full frame Lumix S1, but with an with an older lens. So let's go back to the photos, and I'll just rip through these really quickly. Get that shallow depth of field, a little bit of creamy bokeh, some kind of funkiness on the edges. Definitely not a super clean image, which is, to me, part of the character and part of the beauty of it. Yeah, I love this stuff. Can you tell I really enjoy food and travel? Okay, now I'm hungry. Always happens when I look at these photos. Oh, okay, last story, I think. Is this the last story? Let me just see real quick. Yeah, we'll just call this the last story. It's basically the last photo. So this photo, this angle, I saw this on Instagram. This leads into prepping for a trip. So one of the ways that I will prep for a trip and trying to figure out what I want to shoot, especially somewhere like Taipei where I'd never been before, is start looking at Instagram. Find some hashtags that are representative of that. So Taipei would just be like hashtag Taipei, obviously. And I don't remember what they were now, but it was like Taipei at night or night photography Taipei and whatever. I found a bunch of hashtags that were quite common and had some great photography. And then I started following the hashtags. You know, you can do that on Instagram. You follow a hashtag. If you didn't know that, you can. It's a super great way to get exposed to new work. And so over the, I don't know, month and a half before I left, I'm seeing this constant feed of Taipei photos in my Instagram feed and going, ooh, that's really cool. I want to check that out and making notes. And so by the time I got there, I had a list of things that I wanted to try and see, try and check out. And this is one of those. So I'd seen this photo, like pretty much this exact setup, in somebody's feed, and I thought, oh man, that's so cool. It's Taipei 101 in the background, this cool kind of old world restaurant or cafe or something in the foreground. I don't know what it is, but it's awesome. I want this photo. So, excuse me. And so I see the photo on Instagram, and I reached out to the photographer, and I go, would you mind telling me where this was? And he goes, oh, I can't tell you exactly, but it's like, it's near Elephant Mountain, near the base of Elephant Mountain, and it's somewhere around there. Walk around, you'll find it. Cool. So I go and I am walking around for, I don't know, maybe 2 hours in the day, and I find it. Yes, I found this spot. Yes, I'm gonna get that awesome photo. This is great. I'm gonna come back here at night and get the photo. And I see there's that. It's a bar, a restaurant, like a mini bar, small bar restaurant that's on the corner there. That's what that is. It's, you know, it was closed in the day or whatever, and it obviously didn't have all the lights on. But like, yes, this is it. This is the shot. Down the alleyway, you see Taipei 101. You get the thing. Oh, perfect. So come back that night. Yes, come back on my gear, get out of the car, and there are 5 other photographers with tripods getting the exact same picture. I start talking to people, find like, oh no, this is the photo. Like everybody gets this photo. And I completely lost all inspiration to get it. In fact, the original photo, the one that I had seen that inspired me, had the dude, the photographer, he was standing in that alleyway, kind of like standing here or something. And he might have even had a little backlight on him, I don't remember. But it was this really cool, I was like, man, that'd be a really cool portrait, right? That'd be awesome. Yeah, when you realize that everybody else is doing the same thing, it just lost all interest for me. But the restaurant was great, so we had some good food and a drink there. And I snapped this one. I'm like, well, I gotta at least get a picture here. But I just no longer had the desire and passion to do it. So sometimes, you know, it doesn't really work out the way you expected it to, but you get a beer out of it, and so that's okay too. But yeah, that was cool. So that is a big part of how I prep for going on trips like this in researching where I want to shoot. Instagram is brilliant for this sort of thing. Look for a hashtag or a series of hashtags that represent the place you're going, the kind of things you want, you know, like food of Taipei, for example. I don't know if that's a hashtag or not, but as an example, right? You find those hashtags, find the really popular ones that already have good photos. You know, okay, some people are posting some legit good stuff here, and get that into place. And just, you start following it. And then every time you open Instagram, you're like, oh, look, more great pictures to look at. Cool. So that's kind of one of the best prep tips that I've got for you. Definitely do it that way. It really works out well. Clearly, you can do your traditional research. You can look in your travel guides. You can look in, I don't know, you know, look at tourism websites and see what's popular in the area. But if you're going to shoot, that's how you do it. You do your research on Instagram. Let other people do the research and just feed it to you, basically. It's kind of cool. It's pretty cool. Let's talk a little bit more about gear. So I talked about the S1 and that lens. Now, as I said, I will often shoot with a smaller gear, smaller rig, the Micro Four Thirds. So let's go for this one next. So we're going to work our way down. So that's the G9 with the 12mm f1.4. So that's a 24mm equivalent. f1.4 is very shallow depth of field, especially when you're up close, but it's also superb for low light. If you're into vlogging, this is a great vlogging lens because it's just kind of that perfect field of view for vlogging. And at f1.4, you're going to have nice shallow depth of field, nice shallow bokeh, you know what I mean, no matter what, which is great. So at arm's length, it's a great shot for that. And it's just overall, it's a beautiful lens. It's a Leica lens, so it's going to be a little bit more expensive than something that's not. But this is the Panasonic Lumix Leica 12mm f1.4, perfect for this sort of thing. I generally shoot with prime lenses. I'm not a huge fan of zooms. The lens that I'm looking at right now that I'm talking to you through, this is a GH5 with the 10-25 f1.7 on it. And that is a large lens. But what makes that lens so great as a zoom is that it is a fixed aperture. A lot of zooms are variable aperture. If you get fixed aperture lenses, they tend to be fixed aperture zooms. They tend to be quite a bit bigger, as this one is. The 10-25 is definitely a big lens, but it does give you that consistent aperture, which is really important to me. For the most part, though, I prefer to shoot with primes. It's just a personal thing. It's just how I like to shoot. Part of it is, I think, what I've learned over the years is that if I'm carrying a zoom lens, I am less inclined to move around to try to get the shot, right? If all I have to do is go, oh, it's a little too wide, oh, zoom in, oh, zoom out, whatever. It's kind of cheating, right? It's like a little bit too easy. But when you don't have a zoom lens, then you have to zoom with your feet, right? You have to. If you want to get closer, you want to get farther back, there's only one way to do it. You get closer, you get farther back. And my philosophy is, and I've been teaching this for years and I stand by it, I think it's totally true. When you move your feet, as soon as you start walking, you have just activated a part of your brain, right? Your brain is going, oh, I'm no longer stationary, I have to move. And by doing that, you take that step forward or back, and then your brain goes, well, okay, that was cool, but what if we take a step to the side as well? And you look harder for that perfect shot than you would if you're just walking by and you're like, oh, that's cool. Zoom, zoom, click, okay, move on. But when you go, oh, that's cool, and you go, oh, that's not quite right, go closer. Oh, well, actually, maybe it's here. No, maybe it's. And to me, that is really key towards getting that great shot. So shooting with a prime lens to me is the way to go. Again, personal choice. Obviously, it's more convenient shooting with zooms. A couple of the shots that I showed you were clearly shot with zooms. I think so I told you I went to India twice. The first time I went on a scouting trip, that's when I brought all primes. So I had that 12 mil, I had the Nocticron, probably had the 15, maybe something else, maybe a macro, I don't remember. Anyway, all primes. The second time I went was leading the workshop, so not the scouting trip. And because I was there to teach, not to shoot myself, I didn't want to be that instructor who's always changing lenses and like worrying about my photos. Like, no, I'm here to teach. If I get some photos out of the deal, that's pretty cool, but I'm here to teach. So I just brought zooms on that one, and then I bought that. I don't have them here with me. If they were in my studio, then I would be able to show them to you, but we're not, because you'll hear that story in a moment. I shot with the 12 to 60, the 50 to 200, oh, and the 8 to 18, right. So the 8 to 18, that's a great trifecta. The 8 to 18, 12 to 60, I guess, right, and the 50 to 200. So, and remember, those are micro four thirds, you double all of those, so 16 to 36, blah, blah, blah. Great combination. 3 lenses that will cover basically everything, all Leica glass, all very good quality. Slower lenses, of course, than the primes, as they will be, but great lenses for that. And all of that fits into a small bag. So this is my most used travel bag. I'm kind of I would like to admit that I have a problem. I have way too many bags. But this bag, I've been using this one for quite a few years now, a couple years. I love it. This is from Think Tank. I'm not sponsored by Think Tank. They don't pay me. They do send me gear so that I can show you guys all the time, show my audience. But I've been using Think Tank for years, and I love Think Tank bags. And this one is the Retrospective 7 version 2. So I think this one's fairly new. I think so. Anyway, it's a beautiful bag if you're shooting micro four thirds or full frame. Obviously, you can't fit as much gear in here, but it fits kind of just the right amount of gear. And that trifecta of gear that I told you, those 3 lenses with a body, probably a backup body too. Yeah, right. I brought the G9 and a GH5S. I think that's right. Anyway, and those 3 lenses, and then you can fit your iPad back here. It's a kind of a perfect size for that. I don't want to have huge, big, heavy bags when I'm bouncing all over a country. It's kind of, not comfortable. So having this smaller, lighter gear certainly helps. When I was shooting with something like this, I'm more likely to just be carrying the camera and lens, and that's it, no bag, because this is bigger and heavier, and I don't want to carry around a 20-pound bag of gear. I really don't. It hurts to do that. I don't want to do that. Anyway, so you got your S1 for the big stuff. The G9, which would be the top, consider this your top of the line, micro four thirds, still focused camera. Although with the recent upgrades to this, it is almost as video capable as a GH5, which is phenomenal. If you like doing video work, it's a great combination hybrid camera. But this is your top end stills camera, and then of micro four thirds. And then, because I still absolutely love it, it's an older camera, but I know it's still sold. I absolutely love this, the GX85. Now, if I will probably take this on any trip I go on, regardless of whatever else I'm taking. And if I'm going to go out for dinner or something and I want to bring a camera, I don't want to just bring my iPhone, I want a real camera, but I don't want to carry the big stuff, this is what I'm going to take. And this is the GX85, and you can see how big, tiny little camera this is, tiny. And this lens is the 15mm f1.7 Leica. Incredible lens. So 30mm equivalent, full frame equivalent. Absolutely wonderful lens. Dig this, love it a bunch. I think this is a really great, and this has this type of an LCD. It doesn't have the full articulating, so right, the G9, you get this kind of an LCD, so ideal for vlogging, right, looking at yourself. This does not have that, so this is not a good vlogging camera. It also doesn't have a microphone input, so this really is not a vlogging camera. But as a still photographer camera, and it shoots video, great, but not really a vlogging camera. But popping up like this, what I love, you can see how small this is, and kind of hold this waist level and look down. It's very discreet, very light. It weighs nothing. It's very light. It's not that much heavier than my iPhone. It's a pretty sweet setup. The S1 also has that same type of pop-out LCD like that. Also does, the S1 LCD also does this, kind of a part-way tilt out. So that's if you wanted an overhead shot or down on the ground, you can do that. But it's not a full articulating out. That's the S1H that does both. That's the crazy LCD. Anyway, so that's kind of the camera gear lineup that I would look at. If I'm doing, if I want to have something really lightweight just to take out for dinner or whatever, I'm going to take this. I've done entire trips on this. The Mexico was all with this camera. Is that true? Okay, the Mexico trip was almost entirely with this camera. India, G9 and GH5, depending on which trip. But again, all micro four thirds, the Taipei with the full frame because I wanted to shoot with the full frame, and the vintage lens, which was super, super fun. So let's take a look at the comments. I am going to be transitioning into talking about the live streaming, but I want to look at the comments here and see what people have to say. Let me get this set up over here, and I will pull up the comments. Here we go. And let's go up to the top here. So there's not a whole lot of chit chat in here, but that's all right. We'll see what I can get. If you have a question, I should have told you guys this in the beginning. You can like type in all caps question. That helps. I mean, I'll go through these, but if you think about it, type in all caps. Also, if you put @PhotoJoseph, then it highlights orange on my screen, makes it easier for me to see. At least I think it will. Yes, it does. So do that if you can, but at least get that question in there. Okay. So going through, we can hear and see me. Excellent. Here we go. Somebody's off to run. Hello from London, making you hungry. I know, right? That's the problem with these kind of photography. You're always hungry. Always, always hungry. Alice says, hey, PhotoJoseph, thanks for doing this presentation. Why, Alice, you are quite welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying it. People enjoying photos, I'm imagining here. People talking about food, Frosted Flakes. I think I'd rather have some food in India. Seth, you're keeping busy in the chat room here. Love the cereal talk. I'm watching from Jakarta, Indonesia. Excellent. Well, thanks for getting up so early at 5:20 in the morning for me. Tommy Reynolds, awesome shots. Thank you kindly. Called Sawduce. Thank you for re-educating me, Siraj. I appreciate that. Gorgeous photos. Thank you, Mohammed. Tom, good to see you, my friend. Pushkar, yes. Okay, so Siraj, that's what I'm doing in India in 2020, this year, in November, if we can go. We're going to the Pushkar Camel Fair. That is going to be incredible. So again, photojoseph.com/India, Pushkar Camel Fair, gonna be epic if we can go. If we can't, we'll do it next year. The Camel Fair happens every year. It's end of November-ish, and yeah, I hope we get to do it this year. But go check it out. Okay, let's see here. 12 years. Siraj, oh, I think he's correcting me on the Kumbh Mela. 12 years. So it was every 6 was the half Mela. So we were there for a half Mela. That's what that was. Yeah, and I'm already planning to go back in 2025 for the next full Mela. Absolutely going to do that. Just incredible. Interesting jar I'm drinking from. It's all I could find that was big and I wouldn't knock over. It's just a mason jar. It's, you know. But I'm glad you find that entertaining. Who doesn't have too many bags? Hey, Aaron. Nice to see you, buddy. We all have a bag problem. I know. It's bad. Aaron does love the GX85 and 15mm combo. It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, it's such a beautiful little set. Such a beautiful little set. This camera is, I don't know, 5 years old now, maybe? I don't know. Maybe somebody watching can clarify for me, but it's been around for, I'm looking for a date on it. Doesn't have a date on it. Beautiful. I love this camera. I absolutely love it. Does the G9 have the expose for highlights function? You're talking about the spot mode, spot metering with highlight priority, I think you're talking about. Yes, it does. 99% sure that's correct. I want to look it up. All right, I'll look it up. I'm pretty darn sure that that does. Let's see here. If I go into the metering mode on here and quick menu, metering mode has, yes, it does. Highlight weighted. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Yeah, could probably you're not going to be able to see that. Anyway, highlight weighted spot metering. Yes, it does. It's not spot. It's just highlight weighted metering, not spot metering. The icon is spot. Looks like spot. It's very confusing. But yes, it does have that mode. Thanks for sharing your experience. Rutsam, thank you for enjoying the experience. Okay, well, let's move on. Let's talk about live streaming and getting yourself on the web. So we're going to do a complete 180 here and start talking about a totally different topic, but it's still using cameras. If you have any questions, you think of questions you want to ask about travel, go ahead and drop them in. Don't worry about it. I will gladly pull those back up. Matiluco says, Do you ever abstract photography on the street? Oh, actually, something like shooting people, but from a bottle and all that kind of stuff. No, I don't think so. Like, I would say my objective is never to be abstract. It's not about trying to create abstract work. If I see something, if something catches my eye that has some abstractness to it, then by all means I'll capture it if it's something that I feel like, well, that really makes a good photo. But I don't ever go out with the intention of shooting abstract. It's just not the way that I generally would think. But that's me. But again, if I see something, I will. One of the big, and you certainly saw it in some of the photos here, but one of the things that I like to look for is foreground elements, to be able to have something in the foreground that is going to be out of focus compared to whatever the main subject is in the background, or middle ground, wherever it might be. Those layers of depth really help to kind of bring you into the picture, make you feel like you're a part of it. So it depends on the photo. Sometimes you want to feel like part of the photo. Sometimes you want to feel like an observer as opposed to a participant. It just depends on the photo. But that is something that I tend to look for a bit. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk live. So let me first start by telling you a story of why today's show almost didn't happen. And just to kind of reiterate, just to iterate, just how powerful, what's the word I want to say? That if you got your stuff together, you really can go live from anywhere and make it look pretty good. This setup right now is not like some perfect, awesome, crazy, beautiful setup, but I think it's all right, right? You get decent light on me. The background's exposed. You can see the trees in the background. It's not some blown out window. I would usually say do not have a window to your back when you're setting up a live stream or a Zoom call or whatever, because that's going to be brighter. But I happen to have a really bright light right here, so I'm able to balance that out and give me that background that is exposed the same. Now, if the sun comes, that gets brighter back there, I'm in trouble. But for now, I'm looking at a picture of it down here. That's why I keep looking in this corner. It works out pretty well. So here's what happened. Many of you, well, some of you, at least Aaron, I got one buddy here. At least some of you and Tom know my normal live setup. I'm in my studio. I have a setup where I've got this kind of cool, funky background thing that I've built. It's something I created for a backdrop. It's these kind of gray slabs of concrete. It's painted styrofoam. It's a fake wall with lights on it. It looks really cool. It's my cool setup. And I do all my live streams from there now. That's where I do live from. Well, I had my regular live show this morning, so I go live on my YouTube channel, Photo Joseph, of course, on YouTube. Photo Joseph everywhere, by the way, in case you're wondering. Photo Joseph on YouTube. I went live this morning for my weekly 10 a.m. live show, and I hit live, and my connection's like, and I'm going, uh-oh. And I was blaming the hardware. I thought, man, there's problems with the hardware, and I kind of struggled through the show and limped through it, and it was like up and down and up and down. And then I get off the show and run a little speed test and discover that instead of my usual 30 megabit up, I've got about 3.5 megabit up. Oops. So I call my ISP. Well, first I do a reboot of the modem. Doesn't help. Call the ISP. They'd run some tests from their end. Everything looked good. They send out a tech. Thank goodness. Live in a small town, small local company. They send somebody out right away. They test everything. They get like a marginal number. They find a couple little things to adjust, but nothing really significant. They go back and forth with the company, and then they find the problem. And it's back at their end, and there's nothing they could fix. I got an email. I'd emailed the main tech who I knew was working on it and asked him if it would be up by 2:30 today, my time, 2:30. And he didn't get back to me until I was already setting up here. And he goes, oh, sorry, I missed that email. But no, he has to replace hardware, and it's not going to happen until tomorrow. Oops. So, okay, so I'm figuring out how am I going to go live? I got a live show to do. And my live show's about going live. I can't just not go live. It doesn't work that way. Well, what kind of a live streamer would I be if I didn't go live? And so I scrambled to pull everything together. And so I packed everything into a couple of bags and brought it home. This is like whatever, I'm at home. And my internet at home is working just great. So yay on that. I just realized I forgot to plug in my laptop. The battery might die. Oh, I'm going to need that because if I don't, we're going to take a 30-second break here while I do that because I was scrambling to get things together. Get your questions in. If you got some questions, get them into there. Where did I put my charger? I know I brought it. Yeah. There's a charger around here somewhere. I know there is. I know it. Did I plug it in the wall and forget to plug it into the laptop? Keep talking amongst yourselves. Enjoy life. I will be back as soon as I figure out where I put the charger, which I know is here somewhere. Huh. Well, that is definitely curious. It is not where I expected it to be. Oh, there it is. Got it. Aha. Found it. Okay, let me plug this in. Anyway, so I pack everything up, get over here and start setting it up. And I want to kind of walk you through the setup here because I think that this is kind of a cool, what you can do live when you need to move super, super quick. So how am I going to do this? I am going to, I sort of set this up. Let me see here. I'm going to use my iPad, which is currently on the ATEM. I'm doing my live switching through the ATEM, but I'll show this in a moment. Is this going to work? Yes. Okay. All right, let's go for that. All right, so you are now looking through my iPad camera. Try not to break anything when I'm doing this. All right, so GH5. I happen to have the XLR1 on top of that right now because the wireless lav system I'm using has the XLR receiver. So what you're seeing here is Sennheiser AVX. Digital microphone, not cheap, but really, really good, rock solid. Absolutely love these things. If you do interviews, stuff like that, getting a pair of these is fantastic, whether you're doing it live or not. And the cool thing about the XLR1 on the GH5 is, can you see this? It has two, there we go, it has two XLR inputs. And so you can have two people on there, one going into each channel. And I am stereo. Which is great. So that's crazy awesome. Anyway, so there's the camera. So let's go back to that look again. It is in a little cage just because the camera happened to be in a little cage. You can see the 10 to 25 that I talked about on there. And it is also, this is super important. If you're going to do live, so important. The camera is being powered from the wall. I'm not relying on the batteries. I think if you're going to use a camera as a webcam, real camera as a webcam, get an AC power adapter. Many of the newer Lumix cameras can be powered over USB-C, which is awesome. So you just like standard USB-C charger in and off you go. You're great. The GH5 is an example, and the G9 and all the G series cameras have just a regular battery. So you can get a dummy battery. You can buy these for really cheap on Amazon. It's just an AC adapter to a little dummy battery. Pop that in, and now you got power forever. And I really, 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 really recommend doing that because it kind of sucks to be in the middle of a live show and then suddenly your camera goes down and you're like, oh, now I got to swap the battery and then you got to refocus. And anyway, get the little AC adapter, super cheap, great way to go. Okay, so there's that. I'll go back to the camera view here. It is on the tripod that it's on. Originally it was on the floor, but I ended up putting it on the table because I wanted it closer. That is the Peak Design tripod, kind of a cool, fun little tripod. And so I've got that in there. My laptop running the chat and the ATEM software. And then there is the ATEM switcher. Let's get this cable out of the way. So the ATEM, sorry, I'm driving, make people sick over there. So this is the ATEM Mini Pro. And so we are actually live streaming from here. You can see it's on the air. Don't touch that button. This is what allows me to switch sources. So you are currently looking at camera 3. You're hearing audio from camera 1. If I turn, so you don't hear me. So there's audio for camera 1. If I wanted you to hear audio from any other source, I would turn that on, but I don't. There's separate microphone inputs as well, so I can have dedicated mic input. If I flip this upside down, is that going to work? There you go. Oh, that's kind of cool. It rotated, didn't it? Anyway, you can see the inputs on the back there, and that gives me for the Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro, which is what this one is, gives me 4 HDMI inputs. And so the way that I'm feeding this show in is obviously this camera's on one of the inputs, the computer is on one of the inputs, and then the iPad is on one of the inputs, and input 4 is not being used at all right now. So that's how I'm doing my switching. So this allows me to have multiple cameras. Here I'm obviously using one camera, but if you think of them as sources, then I have 3 sources here: laptop, camera, iPad. But I could have 4 cameras, you know, top down, close up, wide shot, whatever. Or if you're doing an interview, you could have, you know, a wide shot and then close ups on the 2 people and one of the audience, whatever. You can set these up and have that live switching on there, and then you're physically hitting the buttons to switch, which is it's really cool to be able to hit these physical buttons to do the switching. It really is a nice way to do it. You can load up a still, you can go to black, you can do fades. Like if I want to do, let's do this. I'm going to go auto to here, and now it's going to do a crossfade in, right? So I'll go back to the other input, and you see it fades back over. So you can do that. You can do wipes and pushes and all kinds of, you know, weird things like that if you really want to. Probably help if I do that. Anyway, I just traditionally leave it in a cut and just, there we go, leave it a straight cut. That's the way I usually do it, but you have the choices. So you have that hardware switching capability. Now, if you are not live streaming, you are just doing like Zoom calls, this is still incredibly powerful because this will allow you to feed your video sources, so camera, laptop, whatever you want, through the Zoom camera. So it just sees the A10 Mini Pro as a webcam, that's all that Zoom thinks it is, or Skype, or GoToWebinar, or I don't know, FaceTime. You can use this for FaceTime, whatever you're using, you route it through here and you've got more control over your picture and your sound and everything else. So this is a really neat way to do things. Having that switcher is really, really helpful. Now, you don't have to have a switcher, right? If you just want to use a good camera like your GH5 as a webcam, all you need is a way to convert HDMI, which is coming out of the camera, into USB on your computer. That's all you gotta have. The thing is that a quality HDMI to USB converter, minimum's $100, but more like $200 for a good one. And at that point, for $300, you can get an A10 Mini, and you got 4 inputs, and you can switch between them. So I realize I'm saying this, and a lot of you are going, yeah, I'd love to buy one, but I can't. Adorama will take the order, and then they'll ship it as soon as they're available. These things are hard to get right now. It's part of, A, the COVID thing. It knocked out shipping and manufacturing. But B, everybody wants to go live and have a device like this, and so the Blackmagic, the company that makes this, came out with this at just the right time. Like, lucky them, but unlucky because nobody can get them. But it is just the perfect interface for this. So instead of buying a one dedicated, that's all it does is go HDMI to USB, you get this and you get 4 of them for the price of like 1.5 of a normal one, maybe 2 of the other ones if you buy a cheaper one. Anyway, so that's something to consider. So back to the live setup. Camera, lens, audio, microphone, right? So I've got my audio going through the camera. Super, super important element of this. If you, I showed you on the back of the A10 Mini, I'll have to show you again, that it has a microphone input. You can use that, but here's the problem, and this is something that people run into all the time. And incidentally, if you want to know a lot more about the A10 Mini, check out on my channel at youtube.com/PhotoJoseph. You will find several videos about the A10 Mini and the A10 Mini Pro, because it's awesome. I've done a bunch of videos on it. Anyway, if you send your audio, this microphone, into the input on the back of the A10 Mini, that audio is going to come through in real time, because audio, analog or digital, it's either real time or exceptionally close to real time. Digital audio over any kind of digital converter, even like the Sennheiser AVX pack, is delayed. It's tiny, but it's delayed. It's a little bit of a delay, but it's fine. Nothing that anybody's going to notice. Analog is pure real time. However, any HDMI camera, I don't care what you're using, whether you're using a Lumix or a Canon or a Sony or a Blackmagic, whatever, any HDMI camera has a delay on the video coming out the HDMI port. It's just part of the process. When the camera converts its video into data that can be transferred over the HDMI port, that takes time. And some cameras are really fast, and they might take maybe 2 frames on a 30 frame per second timeline, or a 30 frame per second shot. Some might take more like 8 or even 10 frames. Or if you have something like a GoPro, it can be over half a second. It can be really, really painful. So there's a delay. So if I have my audio going into the A10 Mini and my video coming out of this, I would not be in sync. You would be seeing me off of this camera. I believe it's 6 frames out of sync. And that's, it's one of those, like, it's not unwatchable, but you're going, oh, that's kind of annoying. It's like, why isn't it in sync? And so the trick, the solution, is to run your audio through the camera, which is what I'm doing here. So the audio is not going directly into the A10. The audio is going into the camera, and then the camera is sending audio and video in perfect sync out the HDMI, which comes into the A10 Mini Pro. And from here on the A10, as you already saw, let's go back to this again, as you saw in here, regardless of which video I'm using, I'm always using the audio from input 1 on there. So that's how that works. That's how you keep that in sync. So that's your kind of magic trick to make that work. So part of a live streaming setup, decent camera, gotta have a good camera, decent sound, super important, whether it's a lav mic, an on-camera shotgun, not the built-in mic on your camera, that's not good enough. But getting that camera, getting it obviously to tripod, getting it eye level or a little bit above eye level is absolutely key. That's a big part of making it look good. Getting a nice framing, pay attention to your background, right? The background here is not perfect. This is not what I would ideally want, but it was the best I could come up with when I had to rush home and set this whole thing up in 20 minutes so I could go live. But you make the best of it. And being able to balance the background with your foreground lighting, super important. So you don't have that blown out background that nobody wants to see. Let me take a quick look over at the comments, and then I'll come back and finish this little tour here. I messed up something in one of my switches. Oh, let's hit that back to cut. And what have I done? I don't know what I've done over here. I'm going to run a macro and fix this. And chat in me. Excellent. I've done something wrong. I totally broke something. I don't even know what. What did I do? Picture in picture. Reset on. Why is that? Oh boy. cut, and there it goes. Excellent. Okay, so back to the questions very quickly. They're going to give you finish this tour, and I want to talk about the lighting as well. Let's see here. Very clean, minimal setup. Thank you, Trevor. George Bacon, did you find the 20 megapixel sensor of the G9 limiting in the pictures you take? No, not at all. 20 megapixels is a lot. I think the megapixel wars kind of did a disservice to a lot of cameras because you don't need 40, 50 megapixels. I mean, seriously, unless you're doing like extreme compositing, going in there wanting to brush every little hair out, and if you're doing something like that, higher resolution definitely helps. Or printing massive, and I mean like, I don't know, 50 by 60, 40 by 60 inch prints or bigger. It doesn't matter. I have printed 40 by 60 from 16 megapixel files, right? The GH4, right, the predecessor to the current lineup of G-series cameras, were only 16 megapixel. And I had transitioned to that from a Canon full frame, which was a 21 megapixel, let's say, camera. 20 megapixels was the thing, what, 5, 6 years ago or something? Maybe a little bit more. Anyway, that was the thing. And then people started getting crazy about megapixels. Now I gotta have bigger and more. You don't. It's better to have clean pixels than it is to have more pixels. And like I said, I have printed 20 by 30s and 30 by 40s off of 16 megapixel Micro Four Thirds, no problem at all. The 20 megapixel, absolutely fine for any print that you're gonna do. If you're gonna do a huge, huge thing, maybe you want a little bit more, but really the only place you really, really need more is if you're gonna do that heavy compositing, like I said, brushing out every little hair, separating someone from the background kind of a thing, or doing extreme retouching, definitely helps to have those more pixels in there. Like I said, the big, huge print, what was the other? There was another reason to have super big ones. Oh, cropping, right? If you are unable to shoot as close as you want, you're going to be doing a lot of cropping, then obviously if you're cropping, it's helpful to have more pixels to crop. But I don't think I've ever gone, oh, I wish I had more megapixels on this photo. I don't think those words have ever left my mouth. Okay, they just did, but you know what I mean. All right, so hopefully that answers your question. Back over, let's see here. This is a wise investment. I agree. Hope everyone is fine. A lover of photography. Excellent, thank you. Oh, you'd like to be a photographer in the future. Abdo, cool name. Abdo, all you gotta do is shoot, man. Just keep shooting. Just keep on shooting. Keep on shooting, keep on shooting. You get better eventually, and you can do whatever you like. Yeah, don't forget to hit like, everybody. Everybody hit like. We like the like. Rootsman Chin says, you also have to take into account the distance the viewer will be from the print. True, and in complete fairness of that, if you're printing a 30 by 40 print, it's generally not meant to be viewed this close, right? If you're going to print that big, people are stepping back from viewing it from a distance. So yeah, absolutely. You know, when you think about, I don't do the math, but you can do the math. You hear like, oh, 300 DPI for print, 600 DPI for print, or you look at some printers, like some inkjet printers, and they're 1200 DPI printers, and you're thinking, well, if I take my camera and my images and I print them at 1200 DPI, the biggest I'm going to get is like a 4x6 print. No, that's what the printer is laying down. If you feed it some factor much less than that, it fills in the gaps with its own little ink, which if it's an inkjet, they bleed together, and that's what gives you that kind of continuous tone, beautiful look. You don't need anywhere near that many pixels. Usually when I print, I'm going for 133 DPI at print. PPI, D. Whoa boy. Yes, das per inch. I'm going for 133. That's my target generally when I'm printing. If you can give it more, that's fine. I probably don't want to go below 130 DPI, so that might be where you kind of consider a threshold. But again, if it's a big print that's going to be viewed from a distance, like say a billboard that's, I don't know, whatever, 20 feet wide, no one's going to see that billboard from a foot away. They're all seeing it from down on the street, you know, whatever, 100 yards to the billboard sign. So you got to keep these things in mind. You don't have to have super high resolution print when you're going super big. So worth considering. Okay, I guess that's that for that. So let's go back to the setup here, and light is next. Let me see, get this back around. So this light here, and let's go back to this. You can see I've got a big old soft boxy thing on there. This, ooh, is my cable long enough? Sorry, let me untangle this. Yeah. Let's not knock this over, shall we? Everything is precariously balanced on this little table here. I don't know what this is caught on. Ah, there we go. It was just torqued. Okay, here we go. Back to the, I don't know why I'm carrying the stand around. This iPad is the coolest stand ever. Just do this. There we go. Back through that. Okay, I'm gonna get up, and this light is from a company called Nanlite. It is the Forza 60. So this, just to give you an idea how little this is like a miniature monoblock. There is a chip-on-board style, COB chip-on-board style light in here. This has a mini, not Broncolor. What's that type of mic? The type of somebody help me out here. I know this isn't the thing. Somebody help me out. Why am I totally brain farting? The type of mount that you would use on lights is really, really popular, kind of universal. It's got 3 tabs. You put it in and twist it, whatever that is. Just somebody figure that out and let me know. I'm being brain dead here. Anyway, there's a mini, this is a miniature version of this. So this is like a miniature little soft box. It pops out with these, okay, now you really can't see that, but these little metal flexible bendy things you just kind of push down and it locks into place. And you've got this beautiful little stand, which has, I'm at 60% brightness right here, so it's got a lot of bright in this tiny little thing. It also has all kinds of weird effects to it, but we don't want to play with that. And it's a really bright, really good quality light. Nanlite is quickly becoming my new favorite brand. Not sponsored, but they did send some gear out for me to review, which I still have yet to do because I've been really kind of putting them through the paces, and I really, really like them. So high recommendation on those. I really hope that Adorama sells Nanlite. Seth, you can confirm from Bowen's Mount. There we go. Thank you, Seth. Thank you very much. You know, sometimes the brain is just like, bye. That was one of those moments. I'm not old enough to call that a senior moment, but we're working on that. Anyway, so mini Bowen's Mount, that's what it is. It's just a little mini, it's beautiful. It's such a great little pack. And that light, the light comes with a case like this, but this case is bigger than it needs to be. It also has this type of a reflector deal on it, but I never use this. I'm always just using the softbox. So you could certainly pack up that light in something smaller than this if you're not going to carry the dome around. But I love that. So that's one light. That's it. Obviously there's natural light in here. Light behind me. There is a window over there, but I don't think that's doing, I guess it's doing a little bit, maybe it's a little bit. Mostly this light here is wraparound from this. So nice, simple, one light setup. You saw, let's go back to this, you can see how close that is to the camera. It's just right next to it there. Really the only problem that I would say that I have with this setup is the light reflection on the background. There we go. But putting windows behind you is just a dumb idea anyway. I just had no choice for this very, very last minute setup. And my head, for the most part, blocks that. Another big tip, and didn't really do this very well for this particular, it's getting warm in here too, which is, by the way, so not helping with the shiny, but you can't turn on the air conditioning when you're live streaming. It makes too much noise. If for any females that are watching, you can just tune out for a minute because you already know this. Men, it's okay to wear a little makeup. I know you're shocked. I use, and I've shown this stuff on my channel before, I use these little, and I forgot to bring them here. Normally they're at the studio. Obviously, these little blue oil blotting pads. They're like little kind of plasticky blue pieces of paper. They're like this big. You peel one off and you just blot your face and soaks up all the shiny oily stuff. And then you can put on a kind of a mattifying lotion that just makes your skin not shiny. And then if you want to put like a little bit of kind of color back in, just a little bit of a powder that matches your skin tone, will fill everything in and it looks fantastic. And you don't look like you're wearing makeup. But I guarantee you, no professional has ever gone on camera without makeup. When you think about it, when you watch the nightly news, when you watch an actor on TV, do you think they're not wearing makeup? Of course they're wearing makeup. They're all wearing makeup. So when you are doing a Zoom meeting and you spent the time to put together nice lighting and a nice camera and a decent background, you got the good audio, you're like, yes, I'm gonna nail this thing. And all anybody sees is a big old shiny spot on your forehead, which is probably starting to develop now because it's so hot in here and I don't have my little blotters. Anyway, you know, fix it, man. It's super cheap. It's super easy. Just get rid of that and it just looks so much better. So that's a big one. It's just makeup. You're fine. It all washes off and nobody can tell it's on anyway. You look normal when you're wearing it. You look shiny when you're not. So something to consider. So please keep that in mind. Excuse me. So we got a question coming in here. Nicodre says, would you say that light is better than the Godox SL60W? I have not used the XL60W. I'm trying to remember exactly which that one is. I know that I don't have it. I don't have any Godox LEDs. I love Godox strobes. I have a lot of Godox strobes. I think they're fantastic. I know that the Godox LEDs are popular. Gerald Undone did a whole series on them. Maybe that's the one he did. He loves it. I have not compared them, but I am extremely happy with this. And I believe price-wise, this is about the same, although don't quote me on that. I could be wrong on that. But yeah, I totally dig this. Totally dig this. Seth is confirming you guys do the NAM light there. They got us some RGBW tubes for a Europe trip. Worked out great. Yeah, they do these little tube lights and they have the RGBWs, so that means you get the full color spectrum plus true white. Sometimes you get an RGB light and it doesn't have true white in it, so your white is made up of RGBs, which is not ideal. So you want one that's RGBWW. It's got like a cold light, cold white, and a warm white. Those are the best. Anyway, that's what those are. Anyway, okay. Live setup, other stuff. Where are we on time? Oh, we're like 10 minutes away from wrapping up our time, so it's time to get in those final questions. Let me see, is there anything else I need to talk about for this setup? So the laptop, the iPad, the iPad is feeding into the switcher over this. So this is just this is the new USB-C version, but if it was the older Lightning one, same thing. USB-C or Lightning to HDMI. Get the Apple one. I know it's expensive. There's a reason it's not a rip-off. They actually work better. They're more reliable. They last longer. Just get the Apple gear. You spent this much on the iPad, just get the Apple adapter. And so this one gives you HDMI. It also then has power. And this new one with USB-C also has a standard USB port on it, which is kind of cool. Actually, I've never plugged anything into that. But this is what is feeding into the A10 Mini Pro. The laptop's just straight HDMI. This is just straight HDMI. Oh, I also have over here, and this is definitely overkill, but I wanted a monitor on here. So you see the way that you're looking at the image on here. So let me set this down and stop moving it. The way you're looking at the image, this is called multi-view. And let me darken this so you see it. There we go. This is coming out of the A10 Mini Pro. Oh, excellent. Let's try that again. How about this time, iPad, you focus and stay there. This is coming out of the A10 Mini Pro. This is called a multi-view display, and so you see 1, 2, 3, 4 inputs. So I'm not using input 4, but you see the other 3 inputs on here. And then because this A10 only has 4 inputs, they have then used these bottom 4 for other things. So you have Media Player 1, which is kind of cool. If we go back over here and I pull up the A10 software and I go to the Media Player, I did not load my setup, my configuration here, so I don't have any graphics in here. But if I did, let's see here, let me go to the desktop. Where? Good grief. You know, I swear to God, I know how to use a computer. Here we go. A10, Media Pool. There we go. So we'll do this. My weekly live show graphic belongs right there. So there, that shows up. And now if we look over at this view, you can see that showed up here in the media player. So we see it loaded up here in the media pool, and in the multi-view setup, we see it there. This is my live streaming status. It shows me that I'm on air. I've been on air for an hour and a half. It shows me my bit rate. It's a variable bit rate, so it's currently fluctuating between 4 and 6 megabit. My cache status is okay. As it starts to fill up, that number goes up, and then it eventually goes Danger Will Robinson. I can see that I'm streaming to YouTube. This is a recorder. I am not recording the show, but if I was, I would have a USB-C drive plugged into the ATEM, and I'd be recording that. And then this shows me the audio status, as does these meters here, so I can see where the audio, what the audio is looking like, if you will, on each source. Having that on an external monitor is great. I've got this plugged into a Shogun just because it was handy and I needed something. It's, you know, on a stand, whatever, but any HDMI display you can plug this into. So whether that's a television, a cheap monitor, you can go buy, I was helping a buddy figure this out the other day, like you can get a, you know, for $100 you can buy a cheap HDMI HD monitor. It's all you need. You don't need anything fancy. It doesn't need to be super color accurate. It's just a display. It's all you need so that you can see what's on your camera inputs. And that's it. And oh, and then just to kind of finish this story, sorry, I meant to finish this up, of the layout, the multi-view. So we talked about those top 4, the bottom 4, then these 2 are what are called the preview and the program. This is what's about to go to air, this is what's on air. And because of the way I have this set up, these are the same, so it's just a 1-button push. So all I have to do is push 1 button. I just push the button here and it changes, so like I hit the 1. So can I do this? Well, obviously you're not gonna be able to see it. As soon as I hit this, it's gonna go away, but basically I go like this. And, oh yeah, no, wait, no, right, you're not seeing that, sorry. Anyway, as soon as I hit that, it switches over there. Anyway, you figured it out. You get the idea. You know what I'm trying to tell you. You know what I'm feeding you. Okay, I think that's basically it. Let me take another look at the comments and questions and see if there's any more comments and questions. But otherwise, we are ready to wrap this thing up. What do we got here? Seth says the Apple One can support 60 hertz for video out with newer Mac stuff. Not all adapters do. Well, there you go. And incidentally, the iPad or iPhone outputs 1080p 60. That's all it outputs. When you're doing screen mirroring, that's what comes out of it. So on that logic, that's interesting you said that, Seth, because on that logic, then none of them would do the HDMI out. I don't know. Anyway, maybe I'm misquoting something, but anytime I plug in a Apple device into any switch or whatever, 1080p 5994 is what is coming out the other end. And that is that. Matuluco says, this is great. Why? Thank you. I like your YouTube icon. Like your rig, very clean. Yeah, this is a good, clean rig, right? It's a nice, clean setup. Oh, Seth's getting 4K. Oh, right, this iPad does 4K. I just got this iPad. I forgot about that. That's kind of, ooh, I gotta go plug this into a 4K monitor. That's neat. Anyway, nice, clean setup. Yes, thank you. This is definitely a nice, clean, easy setup. That switcher, the A10 Mini Pro, ties it all together. Beautiful, beautiful thing. Place your order now. Don't write in and say, but I can't get it. No one has it in stock. Order it on Adorama today, and then when it's available, you'll get it. If you wait until it shows up in stock, you're going to be waiting for a really long time, because I guarantee you, when they do get them in stock, they have already sold every single one that shows up. So if every day they get 100 of them, and I'm sure they're not, but let's just say they did, those would be going out to the next 100 people who had pre-ordered. So get your order in if you want one of those things. The camera, the GH5, any of the Lumix cameras will work. One of the big key, almost any of the Lumix cameras will work. One of the key things that you need to have for live streaming is actually two key things. Okay, so this is what you need for a live streaming camera lesson. You need two things. You need clean HDMI out. That means that the HDMI signal you're getting is just the picture, right? Quite often, let's see, can I do this easily? Let me see if I can look at my menu. I think I had this set up right on the right page. Often what you will see, now I'm doing this totally blind. No, I got a HDMI thing in my way. Forget it. Anyway, often what you will see is a bunch of information data on the screen that shows, oh, the focus box and the exposure, and you can't get rid of it. That's on a lot of other DSLR, DSLM type cameras, and on cheaper ones, you can't turn it off. So if you plug in your camera and it's got data all over it, look in the menu settings. If you can't find a way to turn that off, you can't turn it off, then that is no bueno for live streaming, because you're gonna have all this crap on your screen. That's not good. I think every single Panasonic camera, every Lumix camera has clean HDMI out. The second thing you want is a microphone input. For the reasons we talked about earlier, having your audio be able to go through the camera as opposed to into the mixer. If I was taking my audio directly into the mixer because of the delay that we talked about, I would have to find a way to delay that audio before it gets to the ATEM. If I'm working with a big mixing board, it'll have a built-in delay function. If it doesn't, there is a product called the Behringer Shark. It is a feedback killer. Its purpose in life is so that if someone stands there with a microphone and walks too close to a speaker, you get the feedback, it eliminates that. It's like magic. But that little box is maybe $130. I know Adorama sells them. 120, 130, something like that. That little box also has a delay function in it. You can delay the audio coming out of it. It is the cheapest box that I know of that will do that. And you're totally not using it for its primary purpose, but it will do the audio delay. I'll do a show on that one of these days. And so that you would have to have that to delay the audio to bring it in sync with the video. So the much easier solution is to send your audio through the camera. As we talked about, for that you need a camera with a microphone input. So the GH5 is great for that. The G9 will work for that. Clearly the S1, S1H, any of those big cameras will work for that. The GX85 will not, because the GX85 does not have a microphone input. The G7, the Lumix G7, is the most affordable camera that I know of from any manufacturer that has both the clean HDMI out and the microphone input. And as a kit, you can get it with a kit lens for under $500. So, and that's a currently available product. So that's pretty sweet. So if you're looking for a cheap, really good quality live streaming rig, that would be the way to go. You get a Lumix G7 and an ATEM Mini Pro. The Pro one is the one that does the live streaming. You're at $1,100 for that, and you've got a heck of a live streaming setup. And if you don't need the actual go live from the ATEM Mini, you don't buy the Pro. It's only $300, and then even cheaper. So that's that. Back in the comments, anything new there? Nothing else coming up in there, so I guess we're just going to wrap it up there. Hey, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. That was super fun for me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed sharing my photos with you. I'm glad that you enjoyed looking at the photos. I saw some nice comments in there, so thank you very much for those. Check it out. Check out the India trip. It may or may not happen. We'll see. But if you go to the webpage, photojoseph.com/India, if you're interested, hit the contact button. You'll shoot me an email. I will let you know if we decide to go onto the trip. I'm currently not selling tickets because I don't want to have to give a bunch of people money back. But everything is there. It's all ready to go. So we'll see what happens. All the groundwork is laid. A lot of work has gone into it. It's ready to go. We may not be able to, but we'll see. Subscribe, YouTube, youtube.com/PhotoJoseph. That's my YouTube channel. And of course, I'm PhotoJoseph everywhere, Twitter, Facebook. I'm not on Facebook much, but Twitter, I'm pretty active on Twitter. That's a good place. You can also reach out to me on Twitter. My DMs are open. I tend to miss them because a lot of them come through, but you can @ me or DM me on Twitter at PhotoJoseph, and I will do my bestest to respond. And tune into the live show. Every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, I do a live show at my YouTube channel, youtube.com/PhotoJoseph. Let's see if there's anything else coming in here. Seth, any final words? I'm going to assume not, or you would have told me by now. We are at exactly the time, nailed the timing on that one. So on that, I'm going to take this thing off the air. And I'm going to just load up my still advertising my own. Actually, oh, I know. I'll load up a different still. Let's do this. Can I still do this before my time is up? Can I? Let's load this up. I'm loading up another graphic. Load this in. And yes, this is how we're going to end the show. All right, everybody. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.